Every great collapse begins the same way, with something that should have been a warning, but nobody recognized it as one. The moment passed quietly. No headlines, no emergency meetings, no panic in the streets, just a number changing on a screen somewhere in Washington as automated systems updated the federal debt counter. $36.2 trillion. That number crossed a threshold in January 2025, a threshold that has never in human history been crossed without catastrophic consequences. Not might have consequences, will have consequences. And most people have no idea what just happened. This isn't new. This isn't some unique crisis that just emerged from nowhere. This is a pattern, a mathematical sequence that has repeated itself exactly 27 times across the last 2,000 years of recorded economic history. Every single time, without exception, the outcome was the same: total wealth destruction for the majority, massive wealth transfer to those who understood what was happening, and a complete restructuring of the economic order. The United States is now in stage 3 of this pattern. There is one stage left. What you think you know about the economy, about your savings, about your future, is about to be tested against a force that has never lost. Mathematics. Cold, brutal, undeniable mathematics. History doesn't repeat, but it rhymes perfectly. Let me show you the mechanism. Every economic collapse in recorded history follows the same 4-stage pattern. It doesn't matter if we're talking about ancient Rome in 64 AD, Weimar Germany in 1923, or Venezuela in 2019. The pattern is identical. The players change, the technology changes, the propaganda changes, but the mathematical reality underneath remains constant. Stage 1 is the foundation. A nation or empire establishes a stable currency system. People trust it. Commerce flourishes. Wealth accumulates. Trade expands. Everything feels solid, permanent, unshakable. This stage can last decades, even centuries. The longer it lasts, the more invincible it feels. The more people forget that it can end. Stage 2 is expansion and debasement. The government needs more money. The reason is always different. War, social programs, corruption, incompetence. Doesn't matter. They can't raise taxes enough because the population will revolt. So they do something else. They debase the currency. They print more money. They borrow against future generations who can't vote yet. At first, nobody notices. The economy even seems to boom. Credit flows everywhere. Asset prices soar. Markets hit record highs. Everyone feels richer on paper. But it's an illusion built on expanding currency supply. Stage 3 is loss of control. The debt becomes mathematically unpayable, not politically difficult to pay, impossible. The numbers don't work anymore. Inflation starts creeping, then crawling, then running, then sprinting. The government prints more money to service existing debt. This creates more inflation, which requires more printing. A feedback loop begins that cannot be stopped through policy alone. Currency confidence starts cracking. Smart money moves into hard assets. Anything that cannot be printed into existence. The government tries desperately to maintain control through price controls, capital controls, propaganda campaigns. It never works. It has never worked once in history. Stage 4 is the inevitable outcome. Currency collapse. Either hyperinflation, where your money becomes wallpaper, or massive deflation through default, where the system seizes up and dies. Savings evaporate overnight. The middle class gets completely destroyed. Wealth concentrates massively in the hands of those few who positioned correctly before the collapse. Then a new system emerges from the ashes, and the cycle begins again. This pattern is not a theory. It's not a prediction. It's a historical law as reliable as gravity, and I can prove it to you right now. The year is 64 AD. Rome is the most powerful empire on earth. The denarius, their silver coin, is the global reserve currency of the ancient world. It contains 95% pure silver. Everyone trusts it. Trade across 3 continents runs on it. The foundation seems unbreakable. Stage 1 complete. Then the expensive wars begin. Nero needs money. He can't tax the population enough without causing revolt. So he does something clever. He reduces the silver content of the denarius from 95% to 90%. Nobody really notices because the coin still looks the same. This continues for generations. Emperor after emperor, each one debasing a little more. By 217 AD, the denarius is only 50% silver. By 270 AD, less than 5%. The coin is basically worthless bronze with a silver coating that rubs off in your pocket. Stage 2, debasement verified. What happened to prices during this time? In 1 AD, a pound of gold could buy about 40 pounds of wheat. By 300 AD, that same pound of gold bought 120,000 pounds of wheat. That's not because gold suddenly became more valuable. Gold doesn't change. It's because the currency became worthless. The government tried price controls under Emperor Diocletian in 301 AD. They mandated the death penalty for merchants who charged more than official government prices. Did it work? Of course not. It made things catastrophically worse. Goods disappeared from markets entirely. Black markets exploded. The formal economy seized up. Stage 3, loss of control verified. By 476 AD, the Western Roman Empire collapsed entirely. Not from barbarian invasions, primarily. The invasions happened because the empire was already dead economically. Cities that had 1 million people shrank to a few thousand. Trade collapsed. It took Europe 1,000 years to recover the level of economic sophistication Rome had achieved. The Roman middle class was completely wiped out. Every single one. But some people got rich. Anyone who understood the pattern early and moved their wealth into land, into gold, into productive assets before the collapse. Fast forward to 1914. Germany, one of the most advanced industrial nations on earth. The paper mark is stable, trusted, backed by the gold standard. Then World War I happens. The war costs unbelievable amounts of money. Germany can't tax enough without destroying the economy during wartime. So they borrow and print. The war ends in 1918. Germany loses. The Treaty of Versailles demands impossible reparations. Germany can't pay in gold because they don't have it, so they pay in paper. In 1918, 4.2 marks bought $1. By November 1923, it took 4.2 trillion marks to buy $1. A loaf of bread that cost 250 marks in January 1923 cost 200 billion marks by November of the same year. Workers demanded to be paid twice a day. Families needed wheelbarrows full of cash to buy groceries. Children used stacks of billion-mark notes as building blocks. The middle class was annihilated completely. Life savings that took generations to build became worthless overnight. But again, some people saw it coming. Anyone who converted their marks into foreign currency or hard assets before 2015 preserved their wealth. Now let's talk about Venezuela right now. The year 2000. Venezuela has the largest proven oil reserves in the world. The believer is stable. People have jobs, savings, hope for the future. Then Hugo Chavez comes to power. Government spending explodes. Oil prices are high, so it works for a while. But oil prices don't stay high forever. By 2013, oil revenues start dropping. The government can't cut spending without losing political support, so they print and borrow. By 2016, inflation hits 800%. By 2018, 65,000%. By 2019, 10 million percent. A cup of coffee that cost 450 believers in 2016 cost 3 million believers in 2019. Doctors abandoned their practices. Engineers left their projects. Why? Because they could earn more selling fruit on street corners than practicing their profession. The minimum wage became so worthless that people literally earned more money recycling the bills as scrap paper than using them as currency. But again, anyone who converted their believers into US dollars or Bitcoin before 2015 preserved their wealth. Everyone else lost everything. These are not isolated incidents. These are mathematical progressions. And the United States is following the exact same pattern. Stage 1 was completed with Bretton Woods in 1944. The US dollar became the global reserve currency, backed by gold at $35 per ounce. Stable, trusted, anchored to reality. But in 1971, President Nixon ended the gold standard. From that moment forward, the dollar became pure fiat currency, backed by nothing except government decree and global trust. That's when Stage 2 began. In 1971, U.S. federal debt was $398 billion today. It's $36.2 trillion. That's a 9,000% increase. For decades, this didn't cause obvious domestic inflation because the U.S. exported its inflation to the rest of the world. Every country that needed oil had to buy dollars first. The U.S. could print, and the entire world absorbed the inflation. This is the exorbitant privilege of having the reserve currency. But that privilege is ending right now. We are now entering Stage 3. The debt is mathematically unpayable. The U.S. government paid over $1.1 trillion just in interest payments in 2024. That's more than the entire defense budget. To service this debt, the government has 3 options. Raise taxes dramatically, cut spending dramatically, or print more money. Guess which one they're choosing. The Federal Reserve tried to fight inflation with interest rate hikes in 2022 and 2023, but the debt is so massive that high interest rates break the system. Banks started failing. Markets crashed. So the Fed was forced to pause the hikes and resume monetary expansion. This is the classic Stage 3 trap. They can't raise rates without breaking the economy. They can't lower rates without accelerating inflation. They're trapped in a vice of their own creation. And here's what should terrify you. The de-dollarization has begun. China and Russia are conducting bilateral trade in yuan and rubles. Saudi Arabia is accepting yuan for oil sales. The BRICS nations are developing alternative payment systems to bypass the dollar. Central banks globally are buying gold at record rates, over 1,000 tons in 2023 alone. Why? Because they see what's coming. When the world stops absorbing dollars, when international trade no longer requires dollar reserves, all that printed currency comes flooding back to the United States. That's when domestic hyperinflation begins. We're in Stage 3 right now, loss of control verified. Now let me tell you exactly what this means for those 127 million Americans. That number represents every American household whose wealth is primarily in dollar-denominated assets that can be inflated away. Savings accounts, bonds, fixed pensions, Social Security promises, paid in future devalued dollars. All of it denominated in dollars that are being systematically devalued. When stage 4 hits, here's what happens. If we get hyperinflation, your $100,000 in savings might still say $100,000 in your bank account. The number doesn't change, but it'll buy what $5,000 buys today, or $500 or $50. Your purchasing power evaporates while the nominal number stays the same. If we get deflationary collapse through default, your bonds become worthless. Your pension fund goes bankrupt because it's holding government bonds that defaulted. Your bank fails because it's holding securities that collapsed. Either way, hyperinflation or deflation, the middle class gets destroyed. Just like Rome, just like Weimar, just like Venezuela. The pattern is absolute. The mathematics are absolute. You might be thinking, this time is different. America is too powerful to fail. We have the world's strongest military. We have nuclear weapons. We have Silicon Valley. Technology will save us. Let me destroy these myths because they're dangerous. Every civilization thought they were different. Rome thought their empire was eternal, ordained by the gods. The Germans in 1920 thought they were too advanced for currency collapse. The Venezuelans thought they had too much oil to fail. The pattern doesn't care about your technology. It doesn't care about your military. It only cares about mathematics. The dollar is the reserve currency, so we're safe. This is the most dangerous myth of all. Reserve currency status is exactly what allows stage 2 to go on longer and get more extreme. Every reserve currency in history has eventually failed. The average lifespan of a reserve currency is 94 years. The dollar has been the global reserve currency for 80 years. We're in the endgame. Technology and productivity will save us. Technology creates real wealth, but it cannot overcome monetary debasement. Weimar Germany had advanced technology. It didn't save them from hyperinflation. Right now, the US is adding debt faster than GDP is growing. That's the definition of unsustainable. Math always wins in the end. The United States is following the exact same pattern that has destroyed 27 civilizations before it. Stage 1 complete. The foundation was built with Bretton Woods and abandoned in 1971. Stage 2 complete. 54 years of continuous currency debasement from 1971 to 2025. Stage 3 in progress right now. Loss of control is happening as you watch this. The Fed is trapped. The government is trapped. The debt spiral is accelerating. Stage 4 is coming. The only question is timing. The mathematics guarantee it. The pattern demands it. And when it happens, 127 million Americans will discover what every previous civilization learned the hard way. You cannot print wealth. You can only print currency. And when the printing stops working, when confidence breaks, the currency wealth vanishes overnight. But it doesn't vanish into thin air. Nothing in economics just disappears. It transfers to those who understood the pattern. The question is simple. Which side of this wealth transfer will you be on? History is repeating exactly as it always has. The only question is whether you'll recognize the pattern before it's too late. The $36.2 trillion threshold has been crossed. Stage 3 is in progress. Stage 4 is coming. The mathematics cannot be negotiated with. The pattern is absolute, and the clock is ticking.